Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I think that this is the last session of the day. Is that right? Last session in here? So I don't want to be too rude in terms of being in between you and the party and all that. But welcome. And this is the first of two incubator talks that we actually have here at the show. My name is Mike Creedon, and I'm the managing director of the Salesforce Incubator. Before we go there, because we actually have incubating companies that are working with some early technologies of Salesforce. As you know, Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Please make all purchasing decisions based upon features and functionality that's currently in the product. But the Salesforce Incubator is a program that we actually just launched back in September. And specifically what we're doing is that we're helping to foster innovation for the ecosystem. It's a very unselfish act if you think about it, because what we do is very unique in the industry, is that we don't take any equity from the companies. We provide them access to first-class accommodations, direct access to product management, other mentors and advisors. And all that we ask from them is for them to innovate wildly and to deliver great value to the ecosystem. It's a 5-month program. And we also host public events that we welcome you to. So if you're interested in hearing more about the events and the Salesforce Incubator, 2 things you can do. One is follow us on Facebook. Just look up Salesforce Incubator and follow us there. Also follow us on Twitter at Salesforce Start is our handle there. And then also we just announced just a week and a half ago the opening of Cohort 3 applications. Our next cohort is actually going to be starting at the end of October, October 30th, and will run through March 30th. Applications are open now until July 15th. For more information, what you can do is go to the URL there, which is salesforce.com/theincubator. So another thing just to note is that we are in process right now with our second cohort. This cohort, which we have some esteemed representatives here that I'll introduce in just a second. We have 13 companies right now that are focused on delivering intelligent apps with Salesforce Einstein. And if you come to any of our events, you'll be able to commingle with these folks and actually hear more about what they're doing. So with that, I don't want to take too much time there. But what I want to do is I want to introduce, or let our panelists introduce themselves. They're from 3 unique companies. The purpose of this particular talk is what I wanted to do is expose some of the in-market applications for AI that we're seeing right now. So there's a lot of activity in the incubator, a lot of cutting-edge research and development that's actually going on within these companies. But here we have 3 shining examples of folks that are actually working with customers implementing AI today. So why don't we start off with Greg Lewis from Hilo Studios.
Thanks, Mike. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm Greg Lewis, CEO of Hilo Studios. I've also been heading up a consultancy over the last 6 years called Wave 6. Hilo Studios is an AppExchange partner. One of the first, actually, it was Wave Analytics, now Einstein Analytics AppExchange partners. We launched right before Dreamforce of last year. We're in the Einstein zone for Dreamforce last year, very early on. We have one main product called the Hilo Navigator that has a very specific purpose. For industries that have revenue recognized in other systems, such as ERP applications, so you're talking manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, HLS, pharma med device, professional services. We blend that revenue data with Salesforce data within our Einstein Analytics app. And we're going to be talking today actually about a professional services use case for a company called MTech that we are applying our machine learning, specifically stuff we're doing with Prediction.io, machine learning models to sales forecasting. So it's enough from us, and pass it on down.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Thomas. I'm the CTO, and I run the AI practice at Neuraflash. Neuraflash is a consulting partner focused on the intersection of Salesforce consulting as well as focused on implementing AI within enterprises. All of our founders and the employees of Neuraflash have come from machine learning or speech recognition companies. And so we've been playing in the space for a long time, tied to the contact center, tied to sales organizations. So we want to take those best practices that we've learned through our previous experience and implement those within the Salesforce ecosystem. A couple use cases we'll talk about shortly is front-end applications. So think of the cool trend of chatbots. Well, your opinion could be reserved as to if you like them or not, but they have business value. They're customer-facing, as well as agent desktop. So if you use Service Cloud, how do you provide better recommendations, predictive actions, predictive offers that are relevant to the caller or the person on the live chat? So we'll talk through those.
Hey guys, so I'm the CEO of Cloud Conversion. We're based in Park City, Utah, so we actually moved out here for the 5 months of the incubator. But we've actually been a longtime partner of Salesforce. But obviously with Einstein, there's a lot of excitement. But we've actually been building e-commerce apps for CRM and ERP. So we have about 250 customers. But the core product that we offer is really purchasing. And there's a lot of intelligence that we can actually help retailers make smart purchasing decisions. So basically what we're doing is leveraging sales data, product data, either internal and external data sources, and basically trying to make really smart purchasing decisions to basically maximize profitability for retail businesses, as like Amazon and others are threatening various retail businesses. So really focus on the online retail, but also some brick and mortar as well, and then drop ship kind of strategies. So kind of leveraging data and intelligence to help retailers be successful.
Great. So specifically then, each of you has, I think, interesting use cases in terms of the application of AI in the enterprise. Why don't you actually give us a flavor, a peek into specifically what you're doing in a commercial sense for customers in terms of each of your use cases?
Yeah, definitely. So the one main function of our Einstein Analytics app is sales forecasting, both uploading the input of those sales forecasts, comparing top down to bottom down to quotas, every slice of revenue that you'd like to do, white space analysis across the history. So there's a really, really good machine learning use case that we are developing right now, specifically around forecast accuracy. So we had a professional services client that had the issue of continually delivering revenue slightly lower, much lower than we should off of book business. So, in a lot of these industries, an opportunity represents an intent to buy, but the actual revenue comes when the customer buys, either the products or services. So in this example, as you see in the diagram above, we're ingesting with our app that's currently live on the AppExchange now. We're ingesting sales data. It may come from a data warehouse, may come from SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics. We blend that data at either the account and/or opportunity level with Salesforce. We also have a number of other inputs that come in, including the bottom-up forecasting that can live on an account, can live on an opportunity. Our app, without machine learning, without Prediction.io, and without any machine learning in its initial version last year, was pretty much that. We bring it in, we do a lot of analysis. Use Einstein Analytics to slice and dice that data. We embed that data, have it on mobile devices and at the account or opportunity level, and provide a lot of value. What we're doing in the machine learning space now is actually going through a number of different algorithms and models with some of our customers. This professional services use case, if you have studied up on machine learning, there's a key feature, descriptive features. So in ours, our key feature is, on one of the models, is forecast accuracy. So that's one example. So what we're doing, we're actually taking all of the elements of a multi-layered sales forecast and analyzing different ways to look at that, right? You could predict the actual number based on seasonality and those things. We're doing that kind of stuff. But in this use case in particular, we're pretty excited to actually predict the accuracy. So if this combination in professional services of consultants, consulting managers, accounts, and then think of all the other categorical dimensions on that data that you can slice and dice that data by, we're also sending it through a training model. And then coming back, so then we can send different combinations in the future through that training model and study, okay, now what happens if I have John, the engagement manager, working with that customer that's hard to pin down and hard to deliver on projects, and coming back with a score that then not only are we producing that score and making that visible within the Salesforce application, but we're using that score to affect the actual forecasted number that we have. So if it has a score or a value of 0.8 coming back, returning from the model, then we will discount that revenue, or we're figuring out the right algorithms, and it's different company by company to discount or enhance that revenue based on what we're seeing in the model. So in our case, what we're doing, we're not using the machine learning to actually forecast the revenue. We're using it as a tool to assist. As we all know, managers will override revenue. They'll take a look at it and do things with it. And so we're coming up with a couple of different models to do that on the Salesforce platform. So,
Great, thanks. Dennis.
So what we're doing with Neuraflash is, as I was saying before, focused on two areas. First is customer facing. So think of chatbots, conversational interfaces to be able to drive automation, both to help get questions answered for those consumers from an interaction standpoint. They could be in Facebook Messenger, the website, whatever else, and providing the right moment from targeting. When should we engage that customer? The value there being helping to answer questions, be able to complete tasks on behalf of those users. On the agent side, we want to be able to provide the appropriate recommendations that are relevant to the caller or the person on the live chat or whatever. It isn't just a blanket offer that's applicable to the whole population. It's about targeting based on who that user is or previous purchases based on their profile or so forth. But from our standpoint, we're using the Einstein platform for those recommendations to be able to help allow us to take the data that's the gold within Salesforce and then drive better value out of it. So the platform of Einstein helps us to be able to get to market faster and helps the customers be able to benefit from that as well. But it's not just about the nuts and bolts of being able to process a bunch of data and get a score. It's also the user experience tied to the agent. Is it a number? Is it a set of labels that come back? No, it's got to be something that's intuitive to the agent to be able to provide that recommendation in the moment or provide the relevant experience to the end customer. So as you see with all these implementations, it's a combination of the core technology that Einstein provides, but we want to make sure we help customers understand how to adapt that technology to the end user experience and how it impacts their organization overall. So, and if you have any other questions, you could obviously, we'll be at the innovation booth next.
And we'll do Q&A as well, don't worry.
So the example I like to give people, so when you think about like Amazon, there's actually about 10 million products on Amazon, and Amazon actually has 70 data scientists that are basically trying to figure out what we're going to buy so that they can actually put it in fulfillment centers closer to us so that it'll arrive fast. So when you think about it, how many data scientists does a regular retailer have? 0. So basically what we're trying to do is basically leverage Einstein so that Einstein is going to basically be their data scientist, leverage the data that they have access to, as well as other category information. And there's a lot of really cool information we can leverage this. But the great example is like, say I've got a widget, and basically our system predicts that they should buy 100 of this widget. Basically, and then our customers decide they want to buy 200, or they decide they want to buy 50. Our system basically will track, was that a good thing to basically deviate from what we suggested? And if it was, we want to learn from that. If it wasn't, we obviously don't want to learn from it. We actually want to maybe tell them next time, last time you modified the prediction, it didn't really work out so well. But we also want to know the reasons why they're changing it. So if we predict that they should do 100 and they buy 200, and it actually was a good thing to do, we want to learn from why did they know that they should buy 100 versus 200. And it's a fine line between, obviously we don't want to spend money and have stock sitting in the warehouse somewhere that nobody wants, that nobody actually wants, but vice versa, we don't want to run out of stock with 2 weeks to go and we basically can't capitalize on that opportunity. So basically it's that model, and the feedback loop is the really important piece, and it actually varies by customer. You might have a customer that has a ton of cash in the bank, and therefore they can be kind of aggressive with what they do. Whereas you might have another one that's more risk averse, and maybe they're looking at other opportunities. And then the other really cool opportunity that we have is there's a lot of vendor data, and most vendors are actually not very good at forecasting their inventory. And so we can actually mine the data that we get from vendors and predict what's going to happen with a vendor's products, And then, so for example, say that widget that we had 1,000, and then it went to 800, it went to 600. We could predict in 2 weeks they're going to be out of stock, and then we could predict that when they go out of stock, they're going to be out of stock for 3 weeks. So we could basically tell our customers, you need to buy 150 units instead of 50, because we basically want to make sure that they're not going to basically run out of stock for 3 weeks when the vendor goes out. So there's a lot of really cool intelligence that we can leverage, we do a lot of work with Amazon. We do a lot of work with eBay. eBay has massive amounts of data, and they're leveraging a lot of AI to sort of help our customers make smart decisions, especially around pricing, around taxonomy. And so it's not just us doing it, it's working with our partners that are leveraging AI technologies to help people make smarter decisions.
Great. So I think that I'm seeing a common theme here. There's a lot of, from an AI perspective, what we're seeing is that the systems that kind of all of you are building are actually kind of supporting the decision-making that needs to happen, rather than actually taking actions themselves. So this actually leads me to kind of another point. It's like, are we just seeing right now AI being used as an evolutionary tool in terms of providing for additional functionality and let's say a modest amount of productivity increase? Or is it really unlocking some revolutionary change to the way that we can actually look at solving particular business problems that we just couldn't do before? Greg?
So my take on that is we've got a traditional, frustrating business problem that right now we're evolving around sales forecasting and sales visibility and white space analysis, these things. What we want to do is make it more revolutionary, but it's going to be a slow education and trust in the users. Our customers today, we've got some large automotive suppliers, some of the largest in the world, as a couple of our pilots. They're not ready today to say, yeah, sure, Hilo, take my data and tell me what my sales are going to be. So we're easing into it right now. They love our platform to have visibility to their sales data, and we're doing that. But we're hoping to have some revolution on what we're doing. We're hoping, there's a lot of common problems today on the topic of sales forecasting that have been going on for years and years and years, and they're all in actually sales managers and director of sales minds. There's the sandbagging rep, there's the rep that puts dates later than this, there's the customers that don't fulfill their commitments. We want to, with Einstein and the machine learning technology, expose a lot of that, bring it to life, and then we think there's a really good opportunity to be more revolutionary. But our approach is really to think of it from a business user's mindset. We got excited about the professional services use case because that was my background. So I know exactly what we're thinking. And the first thought we had was, all right, let's get Prediction.io wired up with our Einstein Analytics app. Let's go through all the mechanics there. That's not the hard part. That's the easy part. The hard part is sitting down and saying, okay, so this returned a score of this. What do we want to do with it now? And to do that, you really have to think like a business user, or grab a business user and think through that scenario. And think, okay, and you know what it does? It leads to other questions. It leads to, okay, well, why is that score lower? So it's much more than even doing the prediction, coming up with the scoring for us. It's taking it down all those different cycles and all those layers to go through that user experience. And quite frankly, that'll be revolutionary when we pin it down. It's going to take some time and some work with customers, though. So,
yeah.
So yeah, building upon Greg's point, as you're looking at the data, what machine learning is doing right now is operationalizing the ability to get at the next recommendation, the better score, the better opportunity from a revenue standpoint. But the bigger takeaway is judgment is still in the hands of the employee. Judgment is still in the hands of the user that needs to make the appropriate decision. And the reason why that's important is it goes back to human nature. There's a system's going to give you a recommendation. Does the human decide to act upon it? But can these systems evolve to drive from an evolutionary step of number crunching to driving better self-service capability? So in our world, the chatbot interface, we have customers that have one customer we're working with right now, 80% of their live chats are common questions that can be addressed. And being able to drive answering on behalf of that user gets not necessarily just, they aren't worried about productivity from a contact center standpoint. They actually want to just have the humans focus on the harder problems. answering the same basic questions over and over isn't valuable to the employee or the business. So can the evolution of the technology, things that the Salesforce research team is doing with their question answering capabilities, with the recent papers that they've announced, is pushing the envelope to make it from evolutionary to more revolutionary to drive some of that automation. So.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the very, very early stages of leveraging this technology, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Like, I could see a future where a lot of our customers just come in on a Monday morning, and the system's generated all the perfect POs for them to cut, and they just basically click the approve button, and then they can go on and do more strategic things. But right now, a lot of our customers spend a lot of time trying to figure this out, and they still make a lot of mistakes because they don't have the capacity to look at all the data they have access to. And so, I mean, I think it's going to be really exciting for our customers to basically focus on growing and running their business versus trying to make decisions that they're not really great at making.
Right. So again, it's just reaffirming, I think, the notion from an AI perspective. It's providing us with the, if you wish, the intelligence with which to do our job better. And I think that what that's going to do also is that it's going to unlock kind of new solution spaces for us within the enterprise. So we have a little bit of time here, and I wanted to make sure that folks, obviously you came because you're interested in kind of what's happening with AI in the enterprise right now. So do we have some questions from the audience? Anybody want to ask some? There we go. Here, can we, hold on a second. There you go.
So initially, you have a new customer and you want to curate or kind of gather information on, their name, possibly what gender they are, their simple interests. Do you like to typically go through Facebook since that curates that data is automatically already there? Is that what you usually do?
So you're talking about if it's a new customer, they may not have a lot of data to begin with. How do you bootstrap a model, whether it's natural language or otherwise? It always comes down to what are the sources of data. Facebook gives you access to some of that information, but there's a permissions consideration, right? There's security. They don't want companies that are going rogue and stealing your information. So there's access there. But what we have recommended for other customers is you still have conversations across your different channels. What are they asking about? If you're collecting a name, if you're collecting information, whether it's a phone call, a live chat, an email. Those are sources of conversation that help you understand what the voice of the customer is in terms of their stated problem, in terms of the question they need, and so forth. Can you take those sources of data to bootstrap your natural language model if you're going for a conversational interface? Now, with others, the other teams here could talk to examples of bootstrapping a recommendation engine, right? So like some of the things here, or scoring. But use the data that you have if you have it. And if you don't, you got to work with something as a baseline. You fake some data out and use it as a baseline. As you collect real data, you start to refine your model. So.
Other questions? Nobody's curious? Oh, here we go.
This may be more of an academic question, but I'm still trying to wrap my brain around machine learning versus deep learning, and I'm wondering in your respective use cases if that's a meaningful distinction, or what your thoughts are on that, or maybe you can help me explain.
There's probably a couple ways to look at the problem. So depending on where you are in your journey with machine learning and whether it's deep learning or any other strategies, it could be natural language processing, some type of scoring engine, etc. I don't know that I would. Deep learning is very exciting because it's opened up the opportunity for getting image classification and improved speech recognition. So what you see in Alexa and in Siri and those technologies are the benefits of deep learning strategies. But for the enterprise, I wouldn't worry day one about which algorithm I'm using. It's more important to figure out what's the right problem that you want to solve, or where do you think the problem space is. In fact, I would say stick with a linear regression, kind of figure out what your problem space is. You don't necessarily want to go in with a bazooka. when all you need is a BB gun. And sorry for the gun reference, but you get the idea in terms of scale, right? So, but the deep learning, to directly answer your question, is an interesting strategy that's come up to help drive another level of classification or so forth. So, hopefully that gives you a sense. I wouldn't worry so much about the techniques. First, figure out what the problem is, and then work your way up to the deep learning as it makes sense. So.
Cool.
One of the aspects that you guys covered was with the data and the intelligence that's coming in, what is my, here are the list of actionable items that come out of, your iterations, or, whatever process that Einstein puts the data through. How often do those, the actionable items get refined or evolved? Let's say, like, in your example, you had like here are my next best actions. How often do you like evolve those next best actions? Do you look at the data, the business model itself? Maybe the question is too vague, but I'm just trying to understand. Typically, when we go in with like a set of data analysis, the question always comes up from a business standpoint is, okay, what do I do with this, right? What's my next course of action? Which is what we're looking to solve through AI and machine learning. But the question itself, is there an evolution for the question itself from a business standpoint?
I'll take a quick one and pass it down. Our mission in doing this is, for better or worse, we're getting involved in machine learning and Einstein, not because it's cool and it's hot, but we've got some business problems to solve that are very basic things that people are solving every day in spreadsheets and in their heads. So our part is always to start with the business problem, and then we go and look at the data. And then the hard part, as far as actionable items on the data analysis, is the discovery of that data. We'll come up with, typically talking to customers, we'll come up with some hypotheses, right? So in general, you think that revenue is lower because of this, this, and this. We'll start examining the dimensionality of the data sometimes on the dimensions and the features that we know are probably of interest, but we'll also do some broader discovery. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Einstein discovery tool. You can do broad discovery and find out stuff about your data that you did not know. So that's some of the actions on the projects for us. As far as turning it actionable, seeing that we're starting with a business problem, on our side, if we have a score, we need to know what we're doing with that score. How is it going to help the business user? And that's how we're handling it.
Cool. Anybody else? Oh, there we go. Ringer.
You guys are all in the incubator right now. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the incubator and what are the benefits that you guys have seen or felt so far?
Right.
It's awesome. No, I think it's really good, and it's actually Mike is running the incubator, and he's got a very long Salesforce history, so he's been a great inspiration and guide, access to other people. We actually founded our company with a lot of ex-Salesforce people and people who are in the ecosystem, so we already had some access. But getting us to focus and organize access, but probably the biggest benefit is working with other like companies who are in similar stages with what they're doing. And that really, I think it took the first couple weeks, we're all kind of like a little tight-lipped, and now we're all really freely talking about what technologies we're using, what approaches we're doing, and everybody has different skill sets. So it's been a really good experience so far, and it's good for us to focus on innovation rather than we have to sell, but to sit down and focus on innovation is key, and working with the other firms is key for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been really good for us. We actually, CRM Science is one of the companies in the incubator, and we actually did a joint deal with them yesterday. So it's actually the first, like, a pretty decent sized deal. And
Booking business, I like it.
Collaborative effort. So that's exciting. We also are now a Commerce Cloud partner because of the incubator, and Mike was able to introduce us to people in the Demandware Commerce Cloud space, and I think that's going to be a really big benefit for us in the future. But yeah, just and then a lot of the events are really fun. They bring in industry experts and in terms of like Salesforce Ventures or industry experts. People from the first cohort are coming back into to help us out as well, and the advisors have been really good as well. So
Cool. And Phil, did you want to? Here we go. Here's another comment. No, a question.
Well, I can
Good.
talk about the deep learning. Oh, the guy, he's gone. So, from an Einstein perspective, what killer feature would you ask for? If you could dream up the roadmap across all Einstein, what would your next killer feature be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Loaded question.
We would love, whether it's API or some kind of access to, for those of you who've been involved in machine learning, we'd love access to some of the Einstein functionality as software developers on a little lower level. Whether that would be access, perhaps API access to the data discovery tool to be able to push data through there and get results based on studies, or whether that's access, at the API level to opportunity scoring and some of the other things would be key for us. So.
The killer feature, from my bias, would be toward question answering. So if you think about what Google does is it indexes a bunch of documents, right? And when you type in a keyword, it gives you a list of documents, and then the burden is on the user to click the document to find the reference within a search result. Now, it's got certain domains. If you say 1 + 1, it knows to give you the 2, or it gives you the Wikipedia return. But the enterprise, its value is it's got all these knowledge-based articles. It's got a bunch of data. It's got a lot of human capital that is in some type of electronic format. But can the Einstein platform curate the knowledge articles to not only get you the right article, but answer the question in the voice that you asked? How many bags can I bring on the plane? I don't need the article telling me. I would like for it to actually say, 2, Dennis, because you're a platinum member. That's all about question answering as a capability, and I know that the Salesforce team is focusing on that. It's a hard problem IBM and all the big players are focused on. But that'll become for the enterprise in the support channel. That's where a lot of the value is going to be, at least from a support or even a sales standpoint. So
Yeah.
that would be a fun one anyway.
all right, so the killer feature for us, we have 250 separate Salesforce orgs with significant amount of data. So what I would like is basically to have a prediction.io instance that can basically connect to each one of our instances of Salesforce, normalize all that data, but obviously keep it secure and maybe even, obviously with PII, we don't really want to know, first name, last name, phone number, email address. But if it can basically anonymize some of the data, put it into a database for us, so we don't have to worry about getting data in and out, that would be the killer feature for us. Because right now, it's very hard for us to mine 250 separate Salesforce instances. But if Salesforce basically helped us do that, and obviously there's security, we had to make sure that our contracts support that and that we're not violating any kind of contracts with our customers. But if that were easy to sort of take that data and figure out where to put it so that we can leverage that data going forward, that's the killer feature for us.
Very cool. So we're out of time with that. But if you have your killer features that you'd like to get in the product, Phil is right here. In all seriousness, thank you very much for being here. If you want to learn more about Einstein, please avail yourself. We have plenty of experts that are here. Take advantage of the sessions and have a great time tonight. Thank you.